computer. Yes.
All right, there you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are now recording, so all political comments must cease and desist. Sorry to interrupt the fun and entertainment, but we only got 45 minutes to be able to pull this off today. Probably won't need that much, but we'll have fun anyway. Today we're going to talk about some of the do's and don'ts with photoshopping your images for print competition. Having judged here and there, and a few others have judged as well, and also been the recipient of some of the comments. I'll show you some of the things that I don't know how to say this politely. My pet peeves when I see images that I'm judging that I got to go after. So that being said, let's go ahead and see if we can share screen. And we do have a screen going, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yay, we're doing good. Move that down to the bottom. I think I showed you guys this image last week and how I made it. So we won't even talk about that. But we'll talk about making it into a print competition image by putting a border around it and some of the do's and don'ts of doing that. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, I think, if everything goes right. So we'll go to canvas size. We'll add 3 inches to the top, 3 inches to the bottom, and I'm going to do it the wrong way. I am going to add a white border, and this is what judges will complain about no matter what. Even if the border looks good, a white border in print competition is a no-no. So I highly recommend that you don't use a white border. Sometimes it works good with black and white and you can pull it off. But I've noticed a lot of judges, it's like an unwritten rule, you can't use a white border. Why? I don't know. Let's get rid of that. A black border, we'll do the same size only with the black border. So we'll go to canvas size again, add 3 inches, 3 inches. We'll pick a color. So we'll go to the color picker. You don't have to go down and search for a perfect black. The fastest way is the hexadecimal color, which is at the bottom of the color picker right here. It's highlighted in blue. Just hit 0, and that'll bring up your black. It's actually 000 000 if you want to be a geek about it. And white is FFF. So I'm just going to hit 0 one time, make it black. And that helps a little bit. But to me, I think you definitely want a color that matches this image to make it better. So let's go back to what we did before, Command or Control Z to get rid of it. And we'll do the image canvas size one more time, 3 inches all the way around. And what we can do is show you the canvas size deal next week, show you how to use that and how easy it is. I'm going to click on the color picker, and I'm going to pick a kind of a medium to dark blue gray to help. That might not be dark enough. Let's go ahead and do a little bit darker. Pick the color. We'll stick with that one. And I just picked a color out of the image that's a predominant bluish gray. And what I forgot to do was add inches all the way around because I'm stupid. Not that I make mistakes, but sometimes I do. At this point, we can add a stroke. And what I would probably do, let's go to effects, stroke. We're going to pick a color. I'm going to pick probably, that's probably too bright, but we'll try it for now anyway. And when you're doing colors and strokes, the thing to remember about a stroke is you don't want it to be too dominant. You want it to be there as an accent. So I'm going to drop it down to about 4 pixels. And you can see on the bottom half, it looks really pretty. On the top half, up in the right-hand corner, you can't see the stroke at all because it kind of blends in. And with the stroke, what we did is we did an inside stroke, which is my go-to default stroke. And I did it at 4 pixels. So I'm going to bump it up to 6, and you still can't see it on the upper right-hand corner up there. So let's go ahead and try a little bit stronger. And my computer's acting all kinds of wonky on me right now, so it's going very slow, fighting with Zoom again. You can see the border up there. So the question comes up when we're talking about a stroke. What's the difference between position when it says inside, outside, and center? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference real quick. So I'm going to zoom in to the bottom left corner where it shows up the best. Double click on stroke so I could change it. And I'm going to change my setting from 3 up to 24, just so you can see what's going on. If I do an inside stroke, you can see that it's got a nice square corner on the edge. If I go to outside, it rounds off the corner. And then if I go to center, come on, computer, catch up. It's not as rounded, but it is rounded, and it just doesn't look all that great. That's why I always stick with the, wow, run slow, computer, run slow. I always stick with inside stroke when I do it. So double click on that, take it back to inside. There we go. Nice sharp edges on the corners, and you got an inside stroke. You'll notice on this right now as it looks, you have a big giant stroke on there. I have seen images entered with a stroke this big, and to me, this stroke is very distracting. This outside edge is very distracting. That's why I highly recommend going with about a 4 to 6 pixel stroke. So we'll take it back down to 6. And some people say, well, it should never be bigger than 4. Well, it depends on the size of your image as to whether you want 4, 6, 5, or whatever the case is. So what you need to do is you need to look at how it looks. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Command J, make a second layer with the stroke and everything, and I'm going to transform it, do a free transformation, and I'm going to go up to where it says 100%. I'm going to go up to 10, let's try 102 for both the height and the width. So both of those right now are linked together. So when it's highlighted in the upper left-hand corner on this little lock right here, that means they're both going to go at the same rate when you type in the number. So we'll hit enter, or you can hit the check box, which will lock in your transformation. And you're going, Yeah, so what? What'd it do? Well, what we're going to do is we're not going to drop the opacity, because if you drop the opacity, you lose the whole thing. So we'll take the opacity back up to 100. We'll take the fill down to 0. Basically what the fill does, it will get rid of what's there, but it will keep the stroke and all the effects that are there as well. So you can put a second stroke on there. That's the fastest way to do a second stroke like that. And if you want it bigger, you just free transform and do a bigger one. If you take out the first stroke, then your key line or your stroke, whatever you want to call it, will be more effective and be able to be seen better than if you have two. Sometimes that second stroke is kind of distracting, so we'll say. And then you can also, while you're at it, if you want to get crazy, double click on effects, add an outer glow, which we did last week. But I think that would probably look better on the one below it versus, nope, that won't look any better either. With this kind of stroke, outer glow is not going to work. Although it does add a little bit of something to the image to make it a little bit different. Looking at this image, I'm going, okay, the background is cool. And you got that nice blue effect there. How about if we add a texture to the background so that your board on the outside has got some texture to it? So we can do that. I'll go to bridge. You won't be able to see me doing this, but I'll go to bridge, and I've got my stock photos and textures. I just have to find it real quick. Textures, and let's do this one. I'm going to add this texture to it just for fun. And the fastest way to do it would be to place it from bridge, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to hit V for my move tool. I'm going to hit V for my move tool, and nothing's going to happen, which is okay. I'm going to drag it up to the eagle tree, which is this one. I'm going to hold the shift key down while I drop it in, and that's going to center it right on the middle. If you hold your shift key when you drop it in and puts it right in the middle, Command or Control T, hold the Option key as you start to do this, and it goes outward all the way around. Hold the shift key to bring it up, shift key to bring it down. And I'm not worried about stretching this or contorting it because it's just a texture anyway. And that looks like garbage, doesn't it? What are you laughing about? It does look like garbage. So let's take it down the blend mode to overlay or soft light, hard light. Those are the three that I would recommend. I would say I'm going to go with soft light. And just put that texture in there. The color is not exactly how I wanted it, but that's okay. Drop the opacity down. Another thing I can do is I was playing with this background, and I'm going to put it over the whole thing. So I want to make sure that I have my top layer. I can do this. I can do this. My top layer, which is the bird with all the effects, I'm going to bring it in and drag it on top. Hold the shift key. which got it in place. Hold the shift, go Command T to transform. Shift key there. Hold the shift key, which means it's not going constrained. Double click on it. Here you can do the same thing. Go down to overlay, soft light, hard light. And I'm going to go with overlay, which puts a weird texture over the top of the whole thing, which makes it kind of different. I mean, I like doing different. So those are some of the things you can do. If it doesn't enhance the image, like this makes it look different, but it doesn't enhance the image, in fact, it makes it a little wonky, don't do it. Just because it's different doesn't mean that it's better. So you got to be careful how you do things in print comp, because judges are very persnickety on things they see. Another thing you need to do when you're doing print comp, hit Z for zoom. And you want to zoom in and you want to look for little spots. So we'll go to filter, camera raw filter. And when you're in camera raw filter, there's going to be a Band-Aid on the right-hand side up here. Click on the Band-Aid. Click on visualize spots. I said click on visualize spots. Thank you. And you can see I have no spots in there. They would show up as little circles if you did. But you want to zoom in and you want to go all the way across and look for your dust spots. I just had my camera cleaned a week and a half ago and it's got a dust spot already. So you need to keep up with that and make sure that you don't have a dust spot on your image, because judges are always looking for an excuse to take points off. And those that have entered print comp will agree with me, I'm sure. Judges are always looking for that excuse. Oh, I see banding up here. Oh, I see a dust spot. There are judges that I've judged with that see banding, and I don't know where they're seeing it at, but they saw it. Any questions, comments, or concerns? One
We
of
had
the
a
things.
discussion about banding the other night during a SIPA conference, and we're kind of coming to the conclusion, you know, the standard Zoom broadcasts at 720p, and we're very, very suspicious that a lot of the banding that some of the judges are seeing is the result of Zoom rather than the actual image. In fact, we compared a couple of images that we're seeing live versus looking at them over Zoom, and there's kind of some evidence that that was actually occurring.
I think what you need to do is have your moderator or whoever's running the monitor look very closely at it and see if there is banding, if they can see it. And also the judges need to take into consideration when you're judging on Zoom or printcompetition.com that these are going over the internet, and sometimes the internet's not perfect.
You got to have a commercial Zoom account to go to 1080, and 720 is kind of tough.
Yeah, even 720 should be able to, you know, cut it down a little bit, or have somebody there, the moderator, say disregard the banding because it is not in the original image.
That's where I think we're going to be going.
Yeah, you got to have somebody that with common sense running the show.
Little history on the white borders, if you want. You know, and this is just my personal experience, so others may have had different, but 25 years ago in competition, you were expected to have a white mat because white mats were exhibition. Sense of it was that a competition was an exhibition. In fact, a judge scored me down, I'll never forget this, years ago, because I used a black mat, and he said I was cheating because a black mat or a black border will actually increase the perception of contrast in an image. So I got dinged for that. And then suddenly, I'm not sure what made everybody flip, but judges started saying, well, you know, your eye is attracted to white spots and what have you. And anything very bright will take the eye, take the attention of the eye. So basically, the theory was that all these white mats we've been using were taking the judge's eye out of the image. And that's when they started going to color, and well, not really color, but pretty much black mats, at least in the competitions I was entering at that time.
Well, now if you look at the matting on the images, they're color coordinated with your image. They also, a lot of times, will have a texture, a light texture to them, not a heavy texture, but a light texture, just to kind of buffer it a little bit so you're looking more towards the image. One of the things I didn't show was you want to vignette your image as well. So it draws more attention. In fact, we could do that right now. Let's go to Photoshop, go to my bird.
Michael?
Yes.
Before we go on, I'd like to make a comment about the issue about the resolution. With IATV, when we do our competitions, the judges are not looking at a Zoom image. We're using something called slide.com, and they're looking at a high resolution image from that, and then we're broadcasting that via Zoom to the general membership. And that way, they're getting a very high resolution, high quality image to look at.
Right. But it still goes over the internet, and there can be glitches, or like in my case, I'm having a little glitch with my internet right now, running a little slower than I'd like it to. So sometimes people are freezing up on me, and something to think about. When you're judging, you have to use common sense. Some judges just judge for having their name up there as a judge because it's important to them. So,
Michael, I think you're asking a lot.
never mind. I'm not going to go there. Okay. This bird could use a vignette. We'll go there. I'm going to go to Filter, Nick Collection, Color Effects Pro 4. The last filter that I use is probably Darken, Light, and Center, because that's the one I use on a regular basis. And it is, believe it or not. And I'm just going to hit OK. I'm not even going to adjust on this at all. We'll go back and go into the adjustment in a minute. But when you put a vignette on, it should, in no time flat, while you wait and wait and wait. There we go. That vignette's not over the bird, it's actually right in the middle. But you can see that's just a quick, hopefully you can see the difference between vignette on and vignette off. So I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to go back into the filter again. So we'll go into Nick Collection, Color Effects Pro 4. And what I'm going to do, there's a button on the right-hand side of the menu that says Place Center. So I click that button, and I'm going to pop it right over the top of the bird. And then you can change your border luminosity. So it's just very, very dark on the border or less dark. I'm going to make it more dark just because. Center size, I'm going to take it down, and center luminosity to where the bird's kind of highlighted. In fact, the border luminosity is a little too dark. Click OK. And this time, it should put a little bit of a ring around the bird, which may be a little bit too much, but it draws your attention in towards the bird. I hope. And this is where music comes in handy while you're on hold. But you can see here we have an eagle. And the bottom right-hand corner is probably too dark, but that's fixable because you can just add a mask to it. Get B for brush, not that one. Soft round brush. And I'm going to go at about 10% opacity. So I just hit the 1 key. Make me a big old brush. I'm using a mouse and not a Wacom tablet. And if nothing happens while you're doing this, check to make sure you have the right color going. Mine was set to white on white. Also, one thing to look for when you're painting on a mask, make sure your mask is selected. You can see there's, if you look at my white mask right now, it has a box around it. If I'm on the image, there's a box around the image. And if I try to mask it off, you can see that it paints white. So let's do 100% by hitting 0. That's because I'm painting on the image and not the mask. If I paint on the mask, it's going to lighten it back up to where the original image was. And your eyes start to play tricks with you when you're doing this. You turn it on, you turn it off and go, wait, it's still there, but it's not there. It's just a trick that your eyes play on you. But adding a vignette around the bird does make a heck of a difference. And if you take too much off, you just hit X, which is your fast way to exchange colors between black and white. Or you can come over here and hit that little arrow right there. It's faster just to hit X. I'm lazy. I like to do that. But when the judges say, hey, you need to put a vignette on there, that's the fastest way is a Nik filter. There are other ways to do it, of course, but for me, Nik filter works wonders. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
You're recording these, are you, Michael?
I are recording these, and they are located on the PPC website under events, if I recall correctly. Is that correct, Mel?
That is correct. I haven't posted up there last week's, but yeah.
Okay. They are recorded. They are put up there. This one should be up within the next 2 to 3 hours, depending how fast YouTube goes. I tried to edit the other day in Photoshop and it wouldn't let me edit a video for some reason.
Yeah, I had the same problem too, so I don't know what the deal is.
It's not a Photoshop problem, I'm sure. Just because
sure.
we're all having problems with it. But
Michael, are there any other things that you've noticed with the judging that would be good to know about?
You know, I will say from judging quite a bit lately, the biggest thing the dust spots are huge. It just astounds me as to how many people miss the dust spots, because that will guarantee you not getting a merit right away, just about. I mean, that was almost guaranteed to knock you down. You know, presentation has been pretty big lately. A lot of people have been really kind of focusing on presentation. So I think that's something you got to kind of really consider. And just, I think titles. titles, if the judge has to sit there and think about what it is you're titling an image, you've already lost them. And I think it's those three simple things that can garner a lot of points for you just in those three items.
There's another one that I know of, and that is haloing. And one thing on that I found is anytime you resize the image, I don't care if you've already checked your halos, you got to go back and recheck, because sometimes just the fact that you resize have generated halos.
Well, a lot of halos get generated through software manipulation,
Filters.
like
Sharpening,
especially, or some of
Even
the
R4 will create some halos at times.
HDR
Yeah.
processing will do that for you. I've got a sunset I shot this morning, and when you first glance at it, you don't see the dust spot on it.
Oh,
But
yeah, I do.
there it is. And use a camera raw filter, which will show it up big time, I'm sure. Not that it needs any help, but visualize spots. And you see this white circle at the upper edge.
Circle of death.
That's the circle of death. You can get rid of it using the heal tool in there, which automatically picks a safe spot, or hit cancel, go to J for the healing brush. What the heck happened to my screen? There we go. Hit the healing brush, make it a whole lot bigger. Just circle a little bit, and voila, it's gone. But I just had my camera cleaned like 2 weeks ago. So
My new camera from Canon came with more dust spots than you could ever imagine.
oh, you ain't seen dust spots, so you saw this one. I went to the beach a week after I got it, and there was probably 1,000 dust spots that showed up that night. I think it's just the shutter there's something in the shutter that caused that to happen.
They cost me dearly this last year. 2 images and 1 comp, very, very much cost me. Although, I would say that be careful also of things that might be a perception of dust spots, because one of them, the 2 images were in the same competition. One definitely was dust spots. The other one was actually birds, way, way off in the distance, but the judges were convinced that they were dust spots. So I've learned my lesson that if I have some little tiny objects that are not readily apparent as what they are, just take them out.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes the judges will comment. I comment on that just in general passing, not to take points down, but to say, hey, you've got a couple of birds here that look like dust spots. They're not enhancing your image by having the birds in there. So go ahead and take them out because they're so small. And so
There's another thing, by the way, that looks like halos, and that's chromatic aberration.
Mm-hmm.
And their Lightroom has a good tool in it to be able to take that out based upon the camera and the lens.
Let's see if I can get. Okay, let's go to bridge, open this image again. Can you see my camera raw right now?
No.
No? Okay, let's
Nope.
do this. Stop share, go back to share, desktop, goodbye. Now, can you see my
Yes.
camera? Okay. On the group optics, you have remove chromatic aberration, and you have use profile corrections, which kind of corrects especially if you're using a super wide angle lens or something, it will help correct the image a little bit so everything's
Lens
not all
barreling.
wonky. Right. And if you hit chromatic aberration, I think I showed one last week that had chromatic aberration really bad. And you click on that, and that little line that goes around at the haloing disappeared right away. So that helps a whole lot.
That's been improved a barrel load in the last year or so in Lightroom and Camera Raw.
They're almost exactly the same now. I mean, Camera Raw and Lightroom, the same, basically the same engine. That's like GMC and Chevy. They're both the same truck, different logos. So, and Angela said she saw 3 images with dust spots that still got merits last year at PPC or IPC. Wow. That's amazing. Normally that's a death sentence. Okay. Anything else? Oh yeah, one more thing to talk about is highlights. Make sure your highlights are not blown out, and make sure your blacks are not blocked up so they're total black. You want to be able to see detail in both. And that's one thing that judges go after, especially the highlights. And on a bright image, sometimes you're going to have highlights that are blown out. It's just simple as that. Cameras can only handle so much.
One thing you might look at showing folks to deal with blown highlights. I've used this technique, for example, on a pier with the sun shining through the pilings late in the afternoon, where you get that blown out sun between the pilings, and what do you do with it? And basically the technique I use to solve that is by layering, I take a sample of the sky, put a solid layer underneath, and then use blend if.
Okay.
On the sky, on that blown out portion. And it does a wonderful job where you have, other elements, pier pilings, leaves, things like that, that you can't separate out. The blend if really works well.
We might have you show the blend if stuff in the near future. I know that you teach Photoshop and Lightroom, so.
And a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, just a little bit.
No, I'm not. You're the master, Michael.
No. I am not the master. I'm just sharing what I know.
Every time I come, I learn a little bit something. That's why I wanted to know where the recordings are, because there's something today that's a little different than I do it, and I want to go back, and I think it's better than the way I do it. So
okay.
Isn't that the fun of Photoshop? Is there's 1,000 different ways of doing the same thing, and
yeah, no matter what you do, even the pros, Julianne Koss and people like that. Yeah, there's 10 different ways to do it. This is my way. If you don't like it, too bad. That's how I show it. That's how it works for me. So, I've seen people try to debate Julianne Koss and Matt Kluskowski, Dave Cross, and try and debate them on how the best way to do things is. And it's like, these guys are the masters. If it works for them, great. If it doesn't work for you, get over it. Don't try to argue the point.
I don't know how there's enough time in the world. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know how there's enough time in the world for these guys to learn how to do these things, to get them up, especially right after it's a new feature.
Right.
I think they go to an Adobe program. Some of the bigger speakers go to Adobe programs to be taught the new things coming out.
Yeah.
And then I wait for them to put their videos out so I can teach what to put out. I do not know everything. Trust me. I know some. I might know 20% of Photoshop, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
Those guys probably know 50%. Julianne Koss maybe 60%. But to know it all, there ain't nobody out there, even the guys that write the software. So, okay. So come up with some ideas for next week and send me a text, email, message me, whatever the case is.
Carrier pigeon.
What's that?
Carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon. It may take a while to get here now, especially if it gets snow on the wings. So I want to thank everybody for being here this week, and I miss
Thank you,
y'all.
Michael. Thank
I
you.
miss you guys. I really do.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
All
you.
righty.
Thanks,
Have a
Michael.
great
See you
day.
later.
We'll talk to you
Take
soon.
care, guys.
See you
Good
next
to
week.
see everyone.